anchor it, trying to mimic what normally occurs. Now, when a demon's doing it through a person, they're psychic, so they're not so much predicting as they are reading your mind and anchoring it that way. That's how they work, man. You've got to understand, if you sit there and focus on demons, then you're going to bring that to you. Some of us that are a part of this wake-up, we got to deal with it. Okay? I've got one connected to me that's constantly communicating with me, infusing into my perception, psychically. It's not as hard as you think. You see, what is psychic communication like if other entities want to put something into my head? Well, right now, for example, you have an auditory field around you, right? Maybe you have various sounds occurring in your room. Maybe you have a fan on, there's a TV in the different room on, which I would turn off, but, just different sounds going on. And you also have my voice, right? So I'm injecting my voice into your auditory perception. I'm adding to it. And you're decoding it and interpreting it with meaning. All right, well, psychic communication is the same thing. It's the same thing, except it's not utilizing your sensory apparatus of the eyes or ears. It's just injecting it directly into your brain's perception. But it's the same thing. It's the same communication. So I can look at something, right? They started using written words, like looking for subliminal messages one night, and it was really getting late. It was like 3 a.m., and I'm like, my eyes were getting blurry. And then it just manifested right on the picture. 3 a.m. eyes, go to bed. Objective reality. It's stuck. It stayed there on the picture. People say, well, show me that picture. Why? For you will say, oh, you just did that yourself. There's no point in that. See, this is what you need to know, and why I wanted to introduce you to the concept of subliminal messages first. But it's not just Photoshop, people. It's etheric. They can psychically put words on things. It does it all of the time in front of me. Literally, man. That's why people be like, this is a matrix. It's well, no, it is illusory, yes. But you manifest as much as they do. It's just your beliefs that you can't that keep you from being able to do so. And right now, anyway, if you're not strong with the Spirit will keep you from being able to do that, just for safety. The Spirit will start to activate that ability in you when you start to connect to it. With me, it's touch and go, because remember, I have entities all over me. So if I'm weak with the Spirit, or they're doing their cycles of trying to break my will or whatever, I'm not going to be manifesting very much, because if I could, then they could influence that, like they do to all of you anyway. Do you understand this consciousness plays a role in your very creation of your reality? So love will overcome that, and the beauty of that is when love overcomes their control of your manifestation, love will manifest out of love. And it's not going to hurt anybody. Do you understand that? So I can manifest out of love. And that's not going to hurt anybody. But I can't just do it, like it's just hard to explain. A lot of this sounds crazy to you right now. I understand that. A few years from now, it'll be a different story. Psychic communication is like the Jedi mind trick, except you don't speak it out loud. For example, if they want to put a thought in my head, they do it thinking of my voice. How hard is that? They just imagine my voice, and from the first person. I want to have cereal right now. So they'll think in my voice, in my head, I want to have cereal right now. Of course, their thoughts that they put in my head are much more sinister. But that's how you do it. You see, once you start to get a grip on that, once you start to learn to play that guitar, you start to recognize it. You start to say, okay, all right, so I'm still alive here, and I'm still me. You start to realize if I'm not thinking in terms of love and the Spirit, then people tend to torment me. Like I said in The Healing Begins Now, like anybody can be an agent. Yeah. They can start speaking to your negative ego, to push buttons, to try to attack skeletons in your closet, right? Connecting to the Spirit is very liberating, because one of the first few things it will show you is that it can read everything in your mind. So it's kind of stupid to lie, because, yeah, mankind may judge you, but the Spirit already knows, people. It already knows. You'll see when you go through you'll know why Christ would say something like, "Forgive them, they know not what they do." Because he knew these things, all right, that their minds were being controlled. Even back then. Yes. What do you think that whole thing was about? You can't do this without the Spirit. You can't. And that's what Christ would have been talking about as well when he said either you're going to build your house on a rock, which is love of the Spirit, the creative Spirit, or sand on the beach. It can be washed away. If you try to open up your psyche, like I'm telling you, and you're not basing it upon a desire to connect to the Spirit, then it can really mess with you. Because it would be so variable. Next thing you know, your own family members are taunting you. It's all dual meaning. Remember I told you about the scenario of two students getting alcohol, right? And then I said if you're psychic, you can change the meaning as you go. Next thing you know, everybody around you is coughing and clearing their throat and reaching up, touching their nose in response to your thoughts. And if you don't know how to control your mind, and you start thinking about negative things or consequences, or this is going to happen, that's going to happen, then any entity attached to them, if you're trying to wake up, will anchor the negative things. If you're unaware of that, you'll attribute it to maybe it's your own father, or maybe it's a friend, and you're going to get mad at the friend. Well, hold on a minute. You seriously need to understand something. It's not your friend's fault, and their conscious mind is probably unaware of it. The way to learn this quickly is to assume they can read your mind, that everybody you talk to can read your mind. And be mindful of your thoughts. Constantly be aware of what you're thinking, and look at how they act. What nonverbal gestures are they making? Are those anchors? Reinforcers? Look for dual meaning in what they say. That's why psychology tells you anybody who does that's crazy or obsessive. Yeah, because they don't want you to get a feel for your own language. I'm telling you, that's how it is. It's dual meaning. You may have a conscious conversation going, but what about the dual meaning? I look at the guy with the pizza. There you go. But it was really speaking to the thoughts of the other guy. But that can happen in conscious conversation, a dialogue between two people without other people around. You can say something that would contextually apply to the conversation, but it can also apply to your thoughts if you're aware of your own thoughts. I don't know, some spiritual people call this a rite of passage, because you can't be irresponsible with this. And I was kind of, mixed about letting people know this. Because I know they're going to be, who are the people that are vulnerable? The irony would be the psychology students, or the intellectual, debate-minded people. If they open up to this, it'll rock them. But maybe some of that's good. I had to go through that. You see, I'm telling you this because I myself, I had nobody holding my hand, and I still don't. I don't have anybody that can tell me or guide me, really, consciously through this, other than the Spirit. The creative Spirit does it. It does a wonderful job in its way. But no person is holding my hand through this. What I'm doing for you is kind of holding your hand through it. I'm telling you what to expect and how it works. And I had to go through all this. I didn't look it up somewhere. I'm not regurgitating this stuff to you. This is my learned understanding with a strong